We are the anchors of Queer News Tonight, and this evening we discuss the queer headlines. Chad Klitzman, just 30, runs for Florida Senate, aiming to boost LGBTQ+ representation in state politics and solve the real issues.
NYC will rename a subway station commemorating 1969 Stonewall Uprising, highlighting its historic significance in the LGBTQ+ civil rights movement.
Firearms in homes worsen LGBTQ+ youth mental health, with many fearing mass shootings. A new report connects it to higher suicide rates.
A secret recording reveals Justice Alito agreeing with a conservative filmmaker on the fight for Christian nationalism and culture wars.
A YouGov poll shows 50% of Britons support defining sex as biological sex, with older voters and conservatives most in favor.
Good evening. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ+ daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand. Available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news for Tuesday, June 11, 2024. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ+ evening news show. Whatever happens, unique in LGBTQ+ news, you will see it and hear it. Hotspots magazine, happening on television network, is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ+ community. Our mission? To support the 11 pillars of our LGBTQ+ community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our queer culture: the Black community, Latino, lesbians and queer women, trans, students, youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ+ nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network. In 2024, our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ+ experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ+ and broader community.
Let's meet tonight's anchors at Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome back Gregg Shapiro, an inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. Gregg is the author of 2 short story collections and 7 books of poetry. He's an entertainment journalist whose celebrity interviews and reviews run in a variety of print and online publications. Welcome back, Gregg.
I'm so happy to be back. And let me just say, I had a fabulous interview with the one and only Lainey Kazan. So I'll be telling everybody how to find it soon.
You know, and I love that. I wonder how many Gen Zers in our community know who Lady Kazan is.
They may know.
I got excited about it.
Did you see my big fat Greek wedding? That's how they know.
I did. I unfortunately don't classify as Gen Z anymore, though. Yeah, I'm the one above.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yes.
And maybe only marginally millennial.
Yeah, speaking of marginally millennial, let's welcome the gay guru himself, Al Ferguson. He has traveled to more than 140 countries worldwide. Al has hosted and coordinated with RuPaul's Drag Race for many seasons and is the creative inspiration of this very show, Queer News Tonight, and the original host of It's Happening Out. Today, Al is an executive producer and content creator for Hotspots Happening Out. Al, it is an honor to be sitting next to you. Welcome back welcome home.
Yeah, to Queer News. I'm excited to be here. We're doing a big story on Justice Alito tonight, and I'm happy to help tell it. And of course, this is tonight's lead anchor, Eric Restivo. Eric is well known for DJing at some of the largest clubs in West Hollywood and has had residencies in LA, P-Town, New York, and now Wilton Manors. He is the television host of The W Boys, a show focusing on the LGBTQ+ love, for entertainment, broadcast on Fridays and then on demand. Eric, the Well will be hosting a jockstrap, of course, a jockstrap and underwear party every month, and you're going to be DJing at every party. They're paying you to be able to do this?
They're paying me to be able to do this. I always get to be the one to put the ass in the class with these gigs. Truly, quite literally, with this jockstrap
I
and
love
underwear
the
party.
art.
The art's great, and let me just tell you one thing. So this $4, $5, $7 drink special, it's only achievable if you check your clothing at the door. If you don't, you'll be paying the normal full price for what it is at the bar that night. If you check your clothes and you bring your underwear or a jockstrap, you are liable for the $4, $5, and $7 drink special.
It says that in the fine print.
Yes, it does. It's kind of hard to find it, but
Always read the fine
when you find it, it does say it.
Right. I love Wilton Drive.
Yeah, I know. The art is just sex, and then, also we're having a party.
Yeah, exactly.
We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast, and here are the bullet points of the queer news for Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. First, this evening, let's queer up gay culture. Out Florida Senate candidate Chad Klitzman says Bridget Ziegler's story is too outlandish for Hollywood. At just 30 years old, Chad Klitzman is making waves in Florida politics as he vies to represent South Broward County in the state Senate. If elected, Klitzman will become the youngest member of the Senate, adding a fresh voice to the legislative body. With a diverse background that includes serving in the Obama White House, graduating from Columbia Law School, and even dabbling in screenwriting with a Netflix movie under his belt, Klitzman brings a unique perspective to the political arena. Notably, his potential win would also mark a milestone for LGBTQ plus representation in the Florida legislature. Currently, the state legislature has only one openly gay member, Senator Shervin Jones. Klitzman's election would double LGBTQ plus representation in the state's lawmaking body. Klitzman's journey into politics began in 2020 during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic when he ran for election supervisor in Broward County. Although he narrowly lost the race, he gained valuable experience and garnered support in the area he now seeks to represent. When questioned by LGBTQ Nation about the melodrama surrounding the Bridget Ziegler story, Klitzman expressed disbelief, likening it to a plot line so outlandish that even Hollywood executives might find it implausible. He highlighted the surreal nature of Florida politics, where the realities often surpass the wildest imaginations. However, he makes it clear that his focus is on real issues facing the community rather than participating in political theatrics. And that right there, my friends, is what I took away from this story, that he is focused on real issues that are going on within our community, and not trying to look over there, and we're really trying to work on what's going on here. So I'm all for it, and anything that is putting Bridget Ziegler down to make her look even more of a clown, here.
Absolutely. Young, smart, and queer sounds like a potentially
Breath of fresh
winning combination. And like you said, anyone who makes a point of shaming feckless Bridget Ziegler gets my vote.
Feckless.
Yeah.
You know, to be the first to disagree with future Florida Senator Chad Klitzman, Hollywood implausible. Now let's think. We have a former president of the United States with 34 federal convictions running for president of the United States. What is possibly implausible by Bridget being Moms of Liberty, Don't Say Gay writer, being anti-LGBT and ending up in bed with another queer woman. Implausible? Right. I don't think so. Right. So he gets that wrong. I'm from Sarasota, and I have to say to you, Bridget is a piece of work. She came to a party I held in 2010 or 2011 in Sarasota that I was holding while I was doing RuPaul's Drag Race, and she loved the drag queens, and she's just been revealed as the fraud that she is,
hypocrite,
the hypocrite that she is. The only thing that makes the story really plausible is if Donald Trump is elected. she and her husband, the former president of the GOP of Florida, will just walk right back into the door. All will be forgiven, and we're off to the races.
Kind of how the Republican Party works.
Well, I
But
can forgive.
we're thrilled
Or
that a
forget.
30-year-old, bright, young LGBT leader puts his money where his mouth is.
It's making
very
waves.
inspiring of what Chad Klitzman is doing. Quite
sure.
amazing.
Next, let's queer up the USA View. NYC subway stop to be renamed in honor of Stonewall Uprising. New York City is set to make history by renaming a subway station to commemorate the pivotal 1969 Stonewall Uprising, a watershed moment in the LGBTQ plus civil rights movement. The state Senate recently approved a bill paving the way for the renaming of the Christopher Street Sheridan Square subway station on the One Line in Lower Manhattan to the Christopher Street Stonewall National Monument Station. Located near the iconic Stonewall Inn bar, the station's renaming honors the historic significance of the area. State Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel and Assemblymember Deborah Glick, both Democrats, sponsored the bill, which is now awaiting Governor Kathy Hochul's signature. The subway stop lies in Greenwich Village, a historically gay neighborhood, which is adjacent to Christopher Park. The park features statues by sculptor George Siegel, symbolizing liberation and, later, the loss endured during the AIDS epidemic. In addition to this renaming, the National Park Service has announced plans to open the Stonewall National Monument Visitor Center next to the Stonewall Inn in 2024. This center will be the first LGBTQ plus visitor center in the national park system, offering immersive experiences and educational programs and serving as an office for park rangers. Anne-Marie Gattard, a board member of the LGBTQ plus cultural advocacy group Pride Live, expressed hope that the center would inspire future leaders by capturing the spirit of the Stonewall era. What a fantastic way to commemorate the 55th anniversary of the 1969 Stonewall Uprising. Great timing. And here's a little interesting fact. The George Siegel sculpture in Christopher Park has a South Florida connection. The two women seated on the park bench were modeled on Miami residents Beth Suskin and her late wife, Leslie Cohen.
Oh, very
I
nice.
love
And
that.
it's so good. It's such a cool thing to know.
It's such a cool location, too. That subway station is sort of already known to be iconic with the surrounding shops. That Starbucks right up there
Because
is
we used to
massive.
cruise it so much,
Yeah,
by the way.
so it's sort of
He or we?
My first comment was, what took so long?
Yeah.
You know, but it is a nice nod. I found it ironic, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we just do a story in here like 2 weeks ago about the National Park Service and their own Don't Say Gay or
Well, they were
Can't
about
Wear
the Pride Parade. They were going to be excluded. from
So
the
it's
parade.
ironic now that they are the ones coming in here, the National Park Service, to commemorate, and they just had that going on. But I love this. As a New Yorker, I'm happy to see this.
You know, it gives me some sadness and then a lot of joy. The sadness first. When you think about them identifying Christopher Street and the Stonewall, the Stonewall station, for me in the 80s and 90s, being in Florida, New York was like gay heaven for me in the 80s and 90s. And Christopher Street, the Halloween parade, many other things.
Ooh, you just got lost in your mind for a
I
second,
went
Al.
someplace and it was so amazing. It's not that anymore. If somebody goes to New York today, Christopher Street and that Greenwich neighborhood is not what it was.
It's not
It's
gay-
all
gay
moved
central
to
anymore.
Hell's Kitchen. So the station reflects the history, but the history of the past that doesn't exist anymore. The great news is you basically can't put LGBT in front of people any greater than naming a subway station, because New Yorkers, but more importantly, visitors live in the subway. They're looking at the map. They're going, this station, this is where I want to go, et cetera, or I want to change, or whatever it is. And imagine any other way that you can put yourself in one of the greatest travel destination cities in the world, and the Christopher Street, Stonewall, National, there
hub.
it is.
Yeah, right
that
there.
hub.
But I hope that when they see that name, that they do the research.
Yeah.
Like, what does this mean?
Well, I would presume that there would be some sort of, in the subways where they have art that's being displayed by local artists, they'll always kind of give a little blurb about what that is. So I would hope, if you're watching, that they would put up a description of what they're honoring there.
To that point, I've read a couple of things that it's going to, when the National Monument opens, it's going to be wildly successful. And the reason is the number of visitors that come to New York City, and New York City doesn't have a national monument. So this is really the first in the National Park Service system, and it's LGBT. So it's going to get huge amounts of attention. And I think, to your point, it's going to be wildly successful. Yay.
Yay. Yay, gay. Next, let's queer up health. The Trevor Project report reveals disturbing impact of firearms on mental health of LGBTQ plus youth. Having firearms in the home can significantly impact the mental health of LGBTQ plus youth, many of whom already live in fear of mass shootings. A new report from the Trevor Project in Every Town for Gun Safety reveals that about 40% of LGBTQ plus youth have a firearm in their home. Among those frequently around guns, 43% reported higher rates of seriously considering suicide within the past year, and 13% had higher rates of attempting suicide. The report also highlights that LGBTQ plus young people in the South experience the highest rates of firearm presence in their homes, and that is at 48%. The findings underscore the urgent need for addressing gun safety and mental health support for LGBTQ plus youth. LGBTQ plus youth are increasingly anxious about the threat of mass shootings, finding themselves surrounded by firearms. The report also reveals that 21% of LGBTQ plus youth people have been personally impacted by a mass shooting, either directly or through someone they know directly. Derek Matthews, director of research science at the Trevor Project, emphasized that Pride Month should be a time for all LGBTQ plus individuals to celebrate their community openly. However, the latest data indicate that amid these celebrations, many LGBTQ plus young people may also harbor concerns about the threat of mass shootings. For LGBTQ plus youth aged 24 and under, support is available through the Trevor Project Lifeline, reachable at 866-488-7386. Listen, this rings true to everyone watching, all three of us at the table. I'm 36 and I still work Pride events where we're in massive crowds of people packed into a bar, and you don't want to listen to that voice in the back of your head. But, I survived Columbine. I grew up during all these horrible shootings that it's always going to ring in the back of my mind. And the fact that our youth are still dealing with it. I'm not surprised that the South has the highest rate, of course. I think that the South is the most irresponsible when it comes to the handling of firearms. I think we get into murky water is my favorite term when I think that, there are a million different answers, but I think that we get into murky water when discussing whether or not someone should have the right to have a firearm in their home. I don't see why it's necessary, to have it accessible when you have children around. But if you take certain courses, maybe you can get a certification here. Maybe there's a certain lock that you can put on the gun. I don't know what that answer is, but I do know that down here in South Florida, people are reckless. Yeah. You can have a gun walking into a Target without any sort of certificate saying that you did anything other than, hey, how much is this? Give me that one in the window. How much is that gun in the window? Right. So it's sad. The Trevor Project is way popular on the West Coast, so I'm happy to see it here, budding up on the East Coast as well, especially in South Florida.
Well, you mentioned that voice that you hear in your head.
It's sad.
These places. This weekend is Stonewall Pride.
Stonewall Pride. Yeah. You don't want to say it out loud.
Well, and we did stories about the DHS and FBI warnings that we have to be aware, even more aware than we already are. We're already looking over our shoulders. Now we have to look everywhere this time. And the thing about the youth, I mean, LGBTQ plus youth have double the fear of their straight counterparts because they not only live in fear of school shootings, but also the violence aimed at LGBTQ plus people. And I can't imagine having to live with that kind of stress at that age. I just can't imagine what it's like.
You know, Faye Watt and I are broadcasting on the main stage at Stonewall Pride this Saturday. The number one expense of Stonewall Pride is police and security. And once upon a time,
I heard that today.
We never, Sarasota, St. Pete Pride, I was intricately involved in the relaunch of Tampa Pride. It was not the major expense. Today it must be because of the potential risk. You know, the lead in this story is buried all the way at the end. And I just want to pull it out of the story that you just did. 21% of LGBT say they have been directly affected by mass shooting violence, or they know someone that has.
Who has.
1 in 5 of us say in LGBT, we know about mass shootings. I have to say, from my standpoint, just as a reminder, tomorrow is the anniversary of the Pulse shooting, the greatest mass LGBT event, mass murder event in history.
Right.
I always, at this time of year, tomorrow will be the 8th anniversary of it, I just always remind people to remember Pulse. For me, I was dramatically affected. I'm this story. I'm one of those 21%. Working for me is arguably still today one of the most famous people that was connected to the mass shooting, which is Eddie Sotomayor. Working for me, first name announced because he was famous in his association with RuPaul and the show. And I always encourage people, please Google Eddie Sotomayor and read about Eddie Sotomayor's life and what happened at Pulse, and even more important, what happened after a mass shooting. There are no winners. There is no good story. It is 8 years of anniversary tomorrow, and it's no better tomorrow for me and millions of LGBT Americans that have either directly been affected or know someone that has been directly affected by mass shootings. Guns are out of control in America. It's pointless to talk about we should have gun control.
Right.
But we do have to talk about the consequences of the guns existing. And their presence very likely increases suicide possibilities in the home. Guns affect us all dramatically, and we should do something about it. But it's a problem that we just can't seem to wrap our heads around.
Happy you're here.
We're remembering Eddie Sotomayor and everyone affected by Pulse. Next, let's queer up social justice. A shocking secret Alito recording says flags were about gays, and there is only one winner. There is a shocking secret recording that was released yesterday from last week's Supreme Court Historical Society event. Liberal filmmaker Laura Windsor presented herself as a religious conservative. She secretly recorded a conversation with Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito, you remember, who authored the Dobbs decision that ended a woman's right, a constitutional right, to an abortion. Windsor said to Alito, quote, "I don't know that we can negotiate with the left in the way that needs to happen for the polarity to end," end quote. Windsor went on to say to Alito, quote, "People who believe in God have got to keep fighting for that, to return our country to a place of godliness," end quote. Alito answered that observation by saying, quote, "I agree with you. I agree with you," end quote. Then he concludes that we will not be able to accept resolving the culture war to come. Here was that secret recording exchange.
As a Catholic and as someone who really cherishes my faith, I don't know that we can negotiate with the left in the way that needs to happen for the polarization to end. I think that it's a matter of winning.
I think you're probably right. One side or the other is going to win. I don't know. I mean, there can be a way of working, a way of living together peacefully, but it's difficult, because there are differences on fundamental things that really can't be compromised. So it's not like we're going to split the difference.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that the solution really is like winning the moral argument. Like, people in this country who believe in God have got to keep fighting for that, to return our country to a place of godliness.
Oh, I agree with you.
This is so important. Let me make sure that I repeat Alito's words. Quote, fundamental things that can't be compromised, end quote. Alito is talking about, among other things, Christian nationalism and the faith community of their acceptance of LGBTQ+. It is noteworthy that Chief Justice Roberts answered the exact same question on Christian nationalism in a completely different way.
You don't think there's like a role for the court in like guiding us toward a more moral path?
No, I think the role for the court is deciding the cases. If I start, would you want me to be in charge of guiding us toward a more moral path? That's for the people we elect. That's not for lawyers.
Well, I guess I believe that the founders who are godly, like, we're Christians, and right. I think that we live in a Christian nation, and that our Supreme Court should be guiding us in that path.
Yeah, I don't know that we live in a Christian nation. I know a lot of Jewish and Muslim friends who would say maybe not. And it's not our job to do that. It's our job to decide the cases as best we can.
Alito has been severely criticized for his lack of political independence on the court. One example is that his home flew the U.S. flag upside down in support of the January 6th Capitol attack leading up to Biden's January 20 inauguration. He blamed his wife, but the secret recording provides evidence that they talked about their flags. He and his wife have extensively talked about a neighbor that flew flags and that they display quote-unquote political flags in counter-protest. That neighbor they're talking about is gay. Mm-hmm. In the secret recording, Alito's wife, Martha Ann Alito, talks about her anger on media reporting and that they will get revenge.
And everything that you're going through, I just want to tell you that, like, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's not okay, though. It's not okay. It's okay. It's okay because if they come back to me, I'll get them. I'm going to be liberated, and I'm going to get them. What do you mean by? Oh well, there's a 5-year defamation statute of limitations. But I don't know what you mean by gay, like by media. Yeah. Oh, okay. Come on, I'll get you. Come on.
Finally, Alito connects the dots over displaying protest flags because of the queer community and pride flags.
You know what I want? I want a Sacred Heart of Jesus flag because I have to look across the lagoon at the pride flag for the next month. Exactly. And he's like, oh, please don't put up a flag. I said, I won't do it because I'm deferring to you. But when you are free of this nonsense, I'm putting it up and I'm going to send them a message every day. Maybe every week I'll be changing the flags. There'll be all kinds. I made a flag in my head. This is how I satisfy myself. I made a flag. It's white and it's yellow and orange flames around it. And in the middle is the word vergogna. Vergogna in Italian means shame.
Queer activists today are making the point about the need to connect these dots. Her imaginary flag to come shows red and yellow flames with an appeal to heaven to counterbalance the LGBTQ pride flag she must look at all this month, saying shame. Shame. It's Christian nationalism. The Alito's comments force Queer News Tonight to ask, where is the impartial jurist that will decide the moment and the most important issues in America at one of the most critical moments since the Civil War? And we wonder, where are LGBTQ plus people in his godly nation. This news is so beyond disturbing. It is beyond. First, this is comparable to many of the things that we have seen Donald Trump do over the last 5 years that have shocked the entire world to the point where we've almost become numb from them. But he is a political elected official. This is a lifetime appointment judge to the Supreme Court doing the same thing that Donald Trump is doing. It has never, ever occurred before. This is dangerous to all of us. Second observation in terms of this moment in time, to the LGBTQ community that says, we got marriage in 15, we're done, we're okay. It is absolutely not true. And Alito and 2 other judges could reverse Obergefell and be in a situation where they can accomplish all kinds of things like they did on Roe. The only way you stop a justice like Alito, who completely contradicted this position in his appointment hearings, saying that you do not ever express political intent, you only interpret the constitutional law. He's completely flipped at this moment.
Yeah.
Now, the reporter journalist at Rolling Stone who did this, you can say, okay, this is a gotcha moment, which is what the Republicans are saying today. But they got him because this is who he is. This is who Mrs. Alito is. They're Christian nationalists out for the LGBTQ community. And if people do not get out and vote, they're going to get us.
Yeah. And she has no vergonia. She has no shame. She's completely shameless hag that she is, and she gets up there and she says this stuff. And we thought it couldn't get any worse than crazy-ass Antonin Scalia. At least Scalia had his best friend Ruth Bader Ginsburg there to kind of keep him in check and remind him when he was being an asshole. Do you honestly think that Alito gives a damn about what Sonia Sotomayor or Ketanji Brown Jackson think about his insane antics? He doesn't.
I think that this, the audio recording is important because often context is lost with just in the words of an article or something like that. So for people to hear the distaste and disgust, quite honest, in both of their voices and all 3 of their voices in this audio, I think that it's powerful. Also, in Italian, prosciutto means ham, which is kind of what she looks like. And I did just want to say super quick, just because I love Sunshine Cathedral and their message for adopting some Christians, some Catholics, some little bit of everything. This book that I'm reading right now is called The New Believer's Bible. It's by Greg Laurie, and it is directly targeted for LGBTQ plus believers in anything. If you just like to meditate, I recommend picking it up, because after listening to articles like this, you could be really discouraged to want to maybe take a part in a Sunday service or something like that. And this book, I texted my grandma and I said, give me a modern retelling of the Bible that I feel included in, that includes my community. And she did some research and sent me this version.
One final note in connecting the dots to this story. Mrs. Alito, which is what I'm going to call her, she connects the dots of where the Justice Alito is, in that they discuss specifically on flying flags and which flags that they're going to fly.
Right.
Now, he initially, on flying the upside down American flag in support of January 6th during the lead up to Biden's inauguration, says, no, it wasn't me. I had nothing to do with it. It was my wife. That lie has now been pierced by this conversation because she points out, we conversed about it. And ultimately, I capitulated to my husband of please don't do that. But she goes on to say, and you should listen to the full secret recording, she goes on to say, but when this is done implying that Donald Trump gets reelected, and eventually Alito is going to leave the bench because Donald Trump can appoint other justices to place his voice and seat and keep that place.
That's right.
We are going to come back to this. So I'll wait, Justice Alito, until
I'll play your little game.
And then the revenge will come.
Retribution. That's
because we are going to have flags in yellow and red flames for the queers to go to hell, and shame on them. Let's connect the dots of exactly what's being said here. They've revealed who they really are. And in many respects, it's almost shocking that I could say, wait, we've found personality in the Supreme Court that may be even worse than the former president of the United States. It's shocking.
When they show you who they are, believe them.
Believe them.
Next, let's queer up trans rights. Britain may be the best example of how we are losing the war on trans acceptance. A recent YouGov poll has revealed that half of Britons support the Conservative Party's pledge to amend the 2010 Equality Act to define sex as biological sex. The change aims to facilitate the exclusion of trans individuals from single-sex spaces despite existing provisions in the legislation for such exclusions. The poll shows 50% of respondents favor the proposal, while 23% oppose it and 27% are uncertain. Support is stronger among older voters, with 63% of those aged 65 and over in favor, compared to just 31% of 18 to 24-year-olds. Notably, younger voters are the only age group more likely to oppose the change, with 43% against it. Support also varies by political affiliation. 71% of conservative voters back the policy versus 30% of Labor and 48% of Liberal Democrat supporters. Despite claims that it is intended to protect women's spaces, men are more likely to support the change than women. Overall, the proposal attracts less support than other election pledges, with higher approval for policies addressing NHS wait times, renewable energy, and environmental protection. Labor's proposal to lower the voting age to 16 is the least popular pledge, with only 32% support. Well, this just goes right along with this rising wave of conservatism in Europe and the UK. It's every bit as terrifying as what's happening in our own country. And need I remind everyone about the insidious Project 2025 and the 180-day playbook. If you do not know about it, Google it. Please, for your own protection, for all of our protection.
Writing it down because I don't know about it. No, I don't. Yeah, I'm like, I don't think we have the time right here, right now. So I just wrote that down. Listen, yeah, I can't say it much better than you. It's terrifying. It also doesn't make sense that if we're trying to protect women's spaces, why don't, like, it's like when there's women for Trump, like I'm always so confused at
Roaches
that.
Parade.
Roaches Parade. I'll never understand that.
Jews for Hitler.
Jews for Hitler, yeah. And there will still always be another one.
Gays for Trump.
Yeah. Scary.
It's don't kill the messenger.
No one's killing anyone.
Don't kill the messenger. But we really have to, I think, tremendous value in the story that we're telling tonight, in that the LGBTQ plus community really has to seriously look at what's going on and probably revise some of our playbook. Our headline is, are we losing, in this example in Britain, are we losing the war on trans rights?
Right.
The answer has to be yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has to be yes.
Right.
It comes from a voice that is unequivocally supportive of the trans community. Queer News Tonight, and we've done hundreds of stories about the trans community, about what the trans community faces, about the legislation of hate that runs against them, how difficult and terrible the environment that we are living in. And at the end of the day, we must admit to ourselves that in June Pride Month of 2024, we are worse than we were 2 years ago, worse than where we were 4 years ago.
Absolutely.
And the situation is worsening. And one of the examples is what you see in Britain. There has been a retrenchment in Sweden. There's been a more politically right-wing movement in the Netherlands and in Belgium. And the trans community are at the tip of their sword. And as a result, it forces you to consider what's going on. I don't know what the answer is of what to do to change it, but we can't just say reporting its universal support of the trans community without saying simultaneously, how do we get there? Because our message is being lost and we probably are losing the war. J.K. Rowling in Britain is credited for what is happening in Britain, which means her voice is being successful. Our question is, how do we counterbalance that voice in a successful way for our trans brothers and sisters? And I don't think we're doing a good enough job.
Well, do you think this weekend, as we are celebrating Pride here in Wilton Manors, do you think the politicians know how to reach us? This is a great chance. There's going to be a lot of queer people there. Do you think they're going to take the opportunity to reach us while we're out there celebrating?
To be honest with you, in South Florida, I don't think our trans, even in South Florida, I don't think our trans community has the visibility that they need to be able to move beyond the situation. And this is in our blue bubble. When we move into the redness of North Florida and the west coast of Florida,
that's right.
There's just no chance. We've got to look at our playbook and reinvent our playbook and encourage our activists to help propel us in a different way. What that answer is, it's beyond my pay grade, but we must do it. Are we losing the war on trans rights? Yes, we are.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
We finish tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ+ 1 Minute News. LGBTQ+ 1 Minute News, let's queer up gay culture. Pakistani man sent to mental hospital after attempt to open a gay club. A Pakistani man attempting to open the country's first gay club in Abbottabad has been committed to a mental hospital. Friends are deeply concerned for his safety but have been barred from visiting or obtaining information. The man's application emphasized the club's role as a safe space for the LGBTQ+ community and promised no sexual activity on the premises. However, the proposal still sparked outrage, with politicians threatening severe repercussions. I'm not surprised to read this story. It breaks my heart, but I don't think that listen, we can't even get change here in South Florida, let alone, over there. So I'm hurt. It's sad. Let's do better, but it does make me happy to see a Pakistani man trying to open up a safe space for the LGBTQ+ community. I've never read the words Pakistani man opens up LGBT anything, so happy to hear that.
Why is it that conservative politicians and religious fanatics are rarely the ones sent to mental hospitals? Just asking.
That's going to make me go tonight. I got to think more about that. 52 years ago, 53 years ago, this similar story could happen in the United States.
Right.
52 years ago, the American Psychology Association said, no, homosexuality is not a mental condition or illness. Pakistan is 52 years
behind.
Well, 55 years of celebrating our LGBTQ+ history, from the 1969 Stonewall riots to the 2024 Stonewall Parade. These are the stories of Stonewall Pride. Baptist Health talks LGBTQ+ health and Stonewall Pride. For the upcoming Stonewall Pride, Queer News Tonight is focusing on various and unique participants. Baptist Health South Florida is a faith-based, not-for-profit healthcare organization serving Miami, Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties. It offers exceptional doctors, hospitals, urgent care, and outpatient centers across South Florida. Around 1.8 million patients visit Baptist Health every year to get quality treatment from their doctors and medical system. And of course, in one of the world's largest LGBTQ+ communities, a huge number of LGBTQ+ people have Baptist Health as their medical provider. Now, Baptist Health is showing its commitment to the South Florida community by sponsoring events like the Wilton Manors Stonewall Pride Festival and Parade. Baptist Health once again has found a new way of promoting inclusiveness and making a difference. The reason that Baptist Health Stonewall Pride story is unique is because at first glance, it may not seem like a natural match, but it is proof positive how various seats in our community can work together. It makes it a beautiful example of the stories of Stonewall Pride. Don't miss the first ever South Florida LGBTQ+ Night Parade on June 15th. I think her story gets it completely right. Baptist and LGBT in the same sentence. It can work. And Baptist Health says, wait, we step up, we'll do it. That's absolutely fabulous for the LGBTQ community.
55 years of celebrating our LGBTQ+ history, from the 1969 Stonewall riots to the 2024 Stonewall Parade. These are the stories of Stonewall Pride. Stonewall Pride Black Excellence Stage features national TV broadcast. Black Excellence Weekend at Stonewall Pride Festival and Parade begins on June 14th and runs through June 16th. One of the important events held during this weekend is the Black Excellence Stage and Lounge, which is being presented by two of the reputed names in the market, Prouder Together Crown and Anchor and Anthony Wynn Entertainment. Crown and Anchor is Provincetown's largest entertainment complex, while Anthony Wynn Entertainment is a premier event promotional and marketing company. The main stage will be in the heart of the parade and festival on Wilton Drive and across from the Wilton Shops. Stonewall Pride is produced by Hotspots Happening Out And if you can't attend, you can watch the event, including the parade, on all streaming platforms, hosted by this fella over here, Al Ferguson, and Faye Watt. We are going to show you all the fun, celebration, and stories of Stonewall Pride.
LGBTQ+, 1 Minute News, let's queer up business. At IKEA, they say, let them eat cake with rainbows. IKEA UK has reintroduced its popular rainbow cake for Pride Month 2024, with all profits supporting LGBT plus Switchboard, a vital service for queer individuals since 1974. The charity has felicitated over 4 million conversations on crucial topics. Predictably, some bigots are outraged by the rainbow cake's existence, which benefits this essential helpline. The rainbow cake will be available in IKEA restaurants throughout June. I love any kind of cake, to be fair. So, listen, IKEA had me with their Cinnabuns. I'm sure the rainbow cake will be moist and delicious.
Rainbow cake is the perfect dessert to eat after devouring a plate of Swedish pancakes with lingonberries. Yum.
What's a lingonberry?
Oh my goodness.
It's a Swedish
so delicious.
little fruit. It's like a cranberry.
I thought it was like a brother of a dingleberry.
You know, I love IKEA. It's so minimalistic.
Steve,
we have one here in Fort Lauderdale. And when you go in June Pride Month, they have all kinds of products that they sell, and they're fun and kitschy. And this cake, the pictures, I've never had it, and the pictures that I see, is
it a slice or it's like a mini?
It's the whole cake.
It's like okay.
Yeah, it's the whole cake. And
doing a pop-up interview from IKEA.
Exactly. and the little secret joke is no self-respecting gay man would eat cake, but we still love it in public at least.
Plenty of cake.
Okay. In LGBTQ plus 1 minute news, let's queer up drag culture. Did a RuPaul All-Star quit before the show and then steal the payment? Well, let's find out. Recently, Vanessa Vanjie Mateo and Mrs. Kasha Davis joined hosts Nasha Lopez and Cara Meldeville at Roscoe's Tavern for a RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars 9 Episode 5 viewing party. But that's a mouthful. Vanjie claimed that All-Stars 9 queens only received half of their stipend up front to prevent no-shows. Nasha confirmed this, sharing an incident where a queen allegedly stole her stipend. Allegedly, I said. The viral clip is stirring online drama. Well, having worked with many RuPaul queens, including many of these names in this, it wouldn't surprise me in the least.
No.
In the least. We had a queen one time on one of the RuPaul cruises in Italy that the person didn't get on the plane and come from the United States for the cruise, with the cruise completely paid for and everything already prepaid, and said, sorry.
Two things here for me. Not Roscoe's, but Rocco's in West Hollywood, Roscoe's is a place, but there's also another Rocco's, Chicago, West Hollywood, is another home to drag performances. And when I was DJing in West Hollywood, one of a RuPaul queens, I cannot say who, was caught on camera stealing another queen's tips out of a plastic bag. You know, they would go around and take the tips and put them in plastic bags in between rounds. I'll tell you after. And ironically, Nasha Lopez, it's funny that she has a strong feeling on this because she went home so strongly first when they invited her back for All Stars. So it's nice to see the reigning first queen sent home have a topical opinion. That was just a little shady. I'm sorry, Nasha. Yes.
I can't. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, please.
Steve, stop.
Yes, yeah. Especially come on, from within the community. We're all working together.
Terrible.
I promise everybody. And after the show, I'll tell you tomorrow. All right. That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV? Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. And that is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Eric Restivo, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Gregg Shapiro and Al Ferguson, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. to our LGBTQ plus world. We wish you good night.